everyone. These individuals that you see to my left and my right this evening. And before I go any further, we're going to ask Dr. Marion Williams to step forward and carry on the show.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sometimes I refer to Natalie as Mrs. Mikey, and oftentimes I refer to myself as Mr. Mikey. If there's anything to get done, it's our responsibility to get it done. It has been about 5 months since we moved from the old location in Maryville. And I think it's for good reason that WLTH has returned to 487 Broadway. We like to say we return to tell our story. And over the last week, there are a number of persons who have appeared on WLTH. And in part, it's to tell our story. And as I look around and look at the honorees, I know why we're here. And as we look here, this is Black History Month, and it says history. And we're here to tell his story. And there's a story here, a story here, a story here, and there are a number of stories to be told. And these are people who have become pathfinders in our city. People who have cut a path for young people who have not had the opportunity to see some of the things that possibly could be accomplished in our community. We're here today to show our appreciation for those persons who have been pathfinders. A couple of nights ago, I was looking at TV and there was some history that was being demonstrated. It was called The Birth of a Nation. And those persons who have known what that was all about, it was not a true story of what African Americans were all about. So it's our responsibility here as a radio station in Gary, Indiana, to do what we know is best for our community, is to bring forth a true story. And these people who are here today are our honorees, and we're here to honor them. And at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to Mrs. Mary Elgin, who has been a catalyst in allowing us to move into this building. This has certainly been a good place. We have other facilities in other places in other states, but this is one that we certainly like to think that it is our flagship. It's right here at the window. It's a place where we can look out, you can look in, and we can tell the story. And part of what we like to do this evening is tell our story. Mary?
Good evening. Good evening. As I look at this agenda for the first time, it gives me pleasure to thank you all for coming to this celebration of legends and to welcome you if you've not been in this building before. It's, as Dr. Williams said, a flagship for this community, because as you look downtown, there are not very many buildings where you can go in and participate with food, activities, the radio station, and some others. So we want to grow from this building to help build our community. And I'm just proud to be a part of that growth and to be the trustee at this time and place that we can be a part of the growth for this community. So I need your support, and I welcome your support in helping to grow from here and to grow with this community and make this the place where we can all spread to build our community. I appreciate the opportunity to follow what started in this building. I'm not the original person that came up with this idea. My predecessor had many of these pictures in the building, and I appreciate and I enjoy going around looking at the pictures in this building. If you've not been upstairs, I encourage you to walk around and look. Upstairs is kind of the history of the beginning of Gary, where the trolley cars and some of the original founders of the city are upstairs. And I can, when I was growing up, I lived on 21st and Jefferson. And so the trolley cars turned around and the bus barn was there, and it kind of brings back memories of what was when I was growing up, and some other things in Gary, how downtown was, all of those pictures upstairs. So I encourage you, before you leave, to tour the building and look at the other pictures. For those honorees that will join those that are here already, it makes me proud to place their names and place their pictures on these walls. And we will continue to add those persons in our city. We look forward to the Civil Rights Hall of Fame, to where we can add them to the Civil Rights Hall of Fame. But in the meantime, we would take advantage of what we have and work from there, and we will add their names to this building. I know most of them, I know all of them, because I was a student at Roosevelt High School, where many of them taught. I'm a member of St. Timothy Community Church, where some of them are members, and I see their talents in the choir. I see their talents when I go to some of their performances. And I am very proud to have the friendship of some of them just on a regular basis. And so it gives me pleasure to just be able to place their names up and their pictures into this building, where others can know that they are famous people in our community. And I look forward to being able to add more pictures and more history to this community. And if you know someone that I don't know, or that I have forgotten or not thought of as a famous person, so that we can continue this, please let me know so that we can add their names. I thought about asking Art Hoyle to bring his horn. I thought about asking Bill Hill to bring his horn. I even thought of asking Donald Green to sing a song with that beautiful voice. And now Bill Hill is a model, and he performed at different style shows, but I know you guys didn't want Bill to get, oh yeah, he's dressed up, so he could easily perform. And so I'm saddened that Mr. Talafair could not make it. I hope someone's here to represent him, and Ron Heflin. I get to see Coach all the time because he's now in business with Dr. Williams, so I get to see them on a daily basis when I come into this building, and I am so happy that they are here. They have lightened up this corner, and not only did they come into this building, but they enhanced this whole corner by helping to clean it up. They enhanced it by adding to the city with adding some cleanup, and just came in as a partner to the city and a contributor to the community. And not only, they've been so cooperative in the building. They've been very good tenants. They've also not only came in with the radio station, but they've used this as their business office as well. So it makes a good relationship, especially when you have friends. Sometimes it says it's not good to have your friends, but not only are they tenants, but they're friends. And we work very well. I've known Mr. Williams for a very long time, and I've known Coach Smith. And so not only are they tenants, but they're friends. They're very close friends. And just the fact that you can work with some of your friends, that helps the relationship, and help us to be able to talk about things, about building. We're not in competition. We're able to talk about growth, and talk about partnerships, and talk about how we can do other things. And that's what's going to work in this community. I'm not trying to be, I didn't know I was a keynote speaker until I looked at the program. And this is not a keynote speech, this is just things I wanted to just express to you about how I feel at this particular time and moment that I'm here. And as I look through the audience, I know all of you, so I want to just encourage us to continue to grow. And as we talk about growth, I see our chairman, our president of our chamber, and it's apropos that we talk about growth because he's here, Mr. Chuck Hughes. And so, and he's familiar with all of the things that's going on in this building and how the pictures came about. And I just want you to look around, and there's been some famous people here. You see Michael Jackson came through this building, Jesse Jackson, others. I've been in the building when a lot of people, a lot of famous people came through this building during the Obama campaign. I don't think President Obama was in the building, which would have been great. I don't think we had a chance to invite him, but he may come back through the city and may come through the building, but a lot of his people came through the building. They came in for lunch. And sometimes when the city is probably the only place you can come downtown, so they wandered through. When Mayor Clay was the mayor, he would bring a lot of people in here and have lunch with them and discuss city business. The current mayor has had a lot of her meetings and breakfast meetings here. So it's a place where people can come and have their meetings. And I encourage you to have some of your staff meetings or some of your breakfast meetings. I think one church has their prayer group. Well, it's not their church, but a prayer group. So the building is available. My building manager, Miss Anita Turk, has been a part of setting up this program, working with one of our honorees who had the idea. And so she's been working on this program. So Miss Anita Turk has done an excellent job working with Coach Smith to bring this program together. We want to recognize her. She's our building manager, so if you need office space, if there's some left after today, feel free to see her. And I want to go on with the next part of our program. Miss Anita Turk will, we're gonna have Jeff Smith, who is a news, who is part of the news reporter, a new addition to WLTH. See, they just told me all this stuff, WLTH. I know him as a very active part of the campaigns, and I think it was the Joe Donnelly and the Obama campaign. Jeff was very active in those, but now he is a part of WLTH, and he does the news reporting at noon. So as we grow, I say we because I feel a part of WLTH. As we grow, we will be on all day long, and some of that soul music that you listen to after the Breakfast Club is take a break. You will be listening to Jeff at the noonday hour, and then you'll be listening to some other things all day long. So tune in and come back here as often as you get a chance. And there's the restaurant, delicious food, so come back as often as you get a chance. So I thank you for this. Jeff Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for letting me do this. And my name is Jeffrey Smith, and I'm the new news anchor for WLTH. Without further ado, we're going to get to this part, and it's the induction of the honorees, and I'm going to read their profiles. The first honoree is Ron Heflin. He graduated from Roosevelt High School in 1958. He went to Tennessee State University in 1962, and he was inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame in 1998. He was a 3-year letter winner at Gary Roosevelt, All-City and All-Area selection, and played for the Hall of Fame coach Louis B. Ballard. He was a member of the 1959 Tennessee State NAIA championship team. He coached 21 years at his alma mater and retired in 1992. In that career, he compiled a record of 345 to 116, and those are wins and losses, for a 75% winning average. He won 9 sectionals, 3 semi-states, and the 1991 state championship. He coached the nation's player of the year in 1991, Glenn Robinson, who was the collegiate player of the year in the 94 top pick, and the 94 top pick in the 1994 NBA draft. Mr. Ron Heflin.
He was unable to attend today. Thank you.
All right, I see. Now, I get the pleasure of introducing a distinguished gentleman by the name of William Bill Hill. Mr. Hill helped break racial barriers and marched for civil rights at Marquette Park Beach in the 1940s. He's a former blues and jazz musician who played clubs in Gary and throughout the country with greats such as B.B. King, Lionel Hampton, Count Basie, Nancy Wilson, and the O.J.'s, among others. It took two tries in the inpatient alcohol treatment center in St. Mary in Gary before he finally bid goodbye to booze and drugs in 1980. For him, it was a simple case of survival: continue to drink or die or stop and live. But it took him 44 years to figure it out because he was in deep denial. He credits his strong mother that helped him come out of that realization. Now, some of his accomplishments, it's a novel, I tell you. And I got the pleasure of doing this, but I love Mr. Hill, and everyone knows that he is a staple in this community. He was honored a couple years back at the Genesis Convention Center, and it was just a long story, but it was just so fulfilling. And the one thing that I'm kind of discouraged about is that there are not enough young people in our community that know this history. Mr. Hill is a remarkable man. He received his bachelor's degree from Indiana University in 1999. He finds time to devote his expertise to other agencies that he serves in the community, and among them are Hillcrest Manor Selfology Institute. He founded a New Beginning AAA and a Beginning Rational Recovery Group. He founded a New Beginning DAPA, Daily Addicted Persons Assistance Classes for the Gary Community Health Center in 1984. From 2005 to present, he serves for the Gary City Court Second Chance Drug Aftercare. And he's a graduate of the first Gary Civil Police Academy under Garnett, Washington. He was a senior elder for the Boys and Girls Club Rites of Passage program. He's a board member for the Gary Commission on the Social Status of Black Male. I told you it was a long list. He's also a Napoleon Hill advocate from Purdue Calumet University. He does that presently. He's a member of the NAACP. He's also a member of the Coffee Organization, in addition to being a jazz musician and blues musician. And he's also on the board of directors for the GNS Center. Now, president of the Drug Free Continuum of Care. Now, I could go on, I'd be standing here for a while, but I know Mr. Hill has been here. He's diligent, he's always on time. You see him poised and dressed very nicely. But we are really, really proud of him. And he is a mentor and a father to many in this community. And as I said, we truly, truly love him.
Okay. Our next inductee is Arthur Art Hoyle. He was born in Corinth, Mississippi. He graduated Roosevelt High School when he received his first horn at the age of 8. His band teacher at Gary Roosevelt influenced him greatly as he played in their concert and jazz bands. Because of his size for his age and his resonant voice, enabled him the opportunity to play with adult bands in the area. He attended my alma mater, Hampton Institute in Virginia, and Roosevelt University in Chicago. He performed with the United States Air Force Band from the years 1951 through 55. He later joined the great Lionel Hampton and Lloyd Price's orchestra. Later, Art Hoyle returned home and began playing shows at the Regal Theater. Art Hoyle has played every major theater, including Mill Run, 11 years, every radio station, CBS, and others. Listing some of the people he has recorded with: Lena Horne, Billy Eckstein, Sarah Vaughan, Quincy Jones, Ramsey Lewis, etc. The legendary figure of Art Hoyle still engages as his talents have continued today, and his travels are currently around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Art Hoyle.
Congratulations. There's a picture already up, but I didn't think that one represented you very well. You see that picture over there?
Yes, I do.
That's you.
I see.
They may not represent you.
Rather familiar.
But this is a picture that I could use.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Well, the pronunciation is really Corinth, like an A, but it's spelled C-O. But it's Corinth. My father established the first high school for blacks there. I was the principal there for 19 years. I've been in Gary 70 and a half years. Came in 1943. And my uncle was one of the leading physicians in Gary. And held the record for delivering most babies in 1 year, 305. That record stood for quite some time. Dr. Dudley Turner. I grew up in his home here, down the street from Roosevelt. Anyway, I've been blessed to have a great teacher at Roosevelt, Ernest Bennett, who took up a lot of time with Richard Tatum, Fred Anderson, and me, because we were interested in playing. After school, you know, he was a great help. Fortunately, I've traveled all over the world with Lionel Hampton's band, and my wife and I traveled all over the world for fun with Dr. Bernard and Louis Watson, and we've been traveling together now for quite a number of years. Anyway, I've been very fortunate and blessed to do something that I love. Jazz is America's gift to the arts. All of the art forms are from other countries in the world, created by African Americans, and it's been marginalized now by television. There's no music on television. What they have is plastic over-amplified noise. There are no more singers, there are screamers. The bands are so loud, not bands, but people playing amplified instruments or imitation instruments that over-amplified, but people have to scream in order to be heard and swallow the microphone. And that's the state of the... everything would be fine. Capitalism would be fine if there wasn't a certain thing called greed. And Ernie Kovacs wrote a book in the 1950s about the mentality of television executives. Because it was a visual art, you couldn't have a person just sit down and play the piano and have that entertain people. You'd have to have a half-naked person dancing on top of the piano. Then that's what television was about, because it was a visual form. And it's gone on from there to the people that invented the talk shows, Steve Allen with The Tonight Show, and Dave Garroway with the show that he had. Yes, the Today Show. At the top musicians, he made Sarah Vaughan's career the greatest singer of all time. Billy Eckstein said, there may be somebody in the world who can beat her singing, but I'd certainly like to know who it is. I was happy enough to be a featured soloist with her, and most of the major singers of the 20th century. Traveled extensively with Tony Bennett and Lena Horne, featured vocalists with both of them in a big 32-piece orchestra. I played with Quincy Jones, Oliver Nelson, Henry Mancini. You know, it goes on and on. Nelson Riddle. So it's been a wonderful career, and I'm very thankful and blessed. I was also first black musician to work full-time in the studios downtown Chicago doing television commercials, television, radio, and movie soundtracks. And one of 3 blacks that integrated CBS Chicago orchestra there. And there were 3 of us that went to integrate that. And we were not very happy about it, because we were replacing other people, of course, our friends and family members. Same thing in the studios. And since I was already in the studio, the fellow said, get in the booth, I think you can do voiceovers. So I've done hundreds of voiceovers, radio and television. United Airlines, American Airlines, the first one and only commercial for Scandinavian Air Service. I did 27 spots for Trans-World Airlines, which was based in St. Louis. And when the guy that was producing it came up, I would do it over the phone. And the guy came up and attended one of the tapings and found out I was black, and I didn't do any more. Not long after that, they went bankrupt. I'd like to think I had something to do with that. Anyway, thank you so much. I want to thank the members of the Academy. And I want to tell you that I'm still working with my group, and I've just released a CD and featuring me and my group. And they're available, and they're on sale now for only $12. And I brought some along in case anybody's interested. And I hope you make note of that, since the baby needs shoes. Thank you.
Mr. Hoyle.
You get to look at it, Paul.
All righty, our next inductee is Donald Green, a legendary vocalist who was born in Washington, D.C. Donald Green has a legendary history related to musical performances in the Chicago area and around the region. He performed 14 years with Duke Ellington Dynasty Group, the annual Jazz Festival, Chicago Art Institute, Chicago Jazz Showcase for 14 years, Joe Siegel Showcase, Blondies on Rush Street, Green Mill Jazz Club at Lawrence and Broadway in Chicago, Channel 11, the Green Dolphin Street Club, Chicago Auditorium. Chicago at one time boasted 2 orchestras. They were the Willie Randall and the Red Sanders Black Orchestras. Donald Green performed with the Willie Randall Orchestra. He also established himself as a legendary vocalist, deserving a place on the Wall of Fame. He looks like he's about ready to do a performance now.
Congratulations.
This is indeed a pleasure. This is my wife, Almeida Green. We've been married over 50 years. And the reason that I'm in Gary is because of my wife. She graduated from Howard and then she came here and I joined her. I'm not going to do a lot of talking, but what I would do is, you know, I love music. I love to sing. I not only love jazz, but I love music, all music. At this time, I'd like to impose upon you to listen to one song that is one of my favorites. And I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. I've had some lonely days and lonely nights. But when I look around and I think things over, all of my good days outweigh my lonely days. I won't complain. God's been so good to me. He opens doors that I cannot see. So I want to say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I won't complain.
Wow. Next inductee takes us from the world of music back into the high-pressure world of athletics. This man is in the Indiana Hall of Fame. His name is Eugene M. Johnson. He was inducted in June 4th, 2006 in Maryville, Indiana. He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he attended Cheney State and Indiana University. He was the head coach at Gary Westside for 40 years, 1968 through 2008. He started the program. He's a member of the 1972 state runner-up basketball coaching staff, a member of the 1972 and 1977 through 79 state champion track coaching staffs, and he was the head coach of the 2005 state 5th place boys track team. He's coached or mentored over 10,000 student athletes in his coaching career. He's mentored, trained, and was head coach to over 30 eventual head coaches who went on to win state championships in other states, such as Oklahoma and California, as well as many eventual and current college level coaches across the country. He has the longest running tenure of any coach in this region. He had 10 Northwestern Conference wrestling championships. In track, teams won 10 sectionals, 9 regionals, and 5 state titles. And he was also the track coach of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, Eugene M. Johnson. First and foremost, praise God from whom all blessings flow. To those persons who thought enough to include me in this prestigious situation today, or I shouldn't call it a situation, I should say ceremony today. Presently still coaching, still trying to coach, still trying to perfect the craft of coaching, of which you probably never perfect unless you win all the games, never lose any, and are crowned a champion. Then I guess maybe you have then perfected coaching. But nevertheless, as I look back over, and recently a minister at our church preached a sermon that looking back over your life, if you could just look back over your life, there's so many different things. So I will echo some of those things that have already been mentioned. Yes, born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and went to Cheney. Now, Cheney historically is the first of the historical black colleges. So went to Cheney. At that time it was a teacher's college. Now, I'm not even sure why I was there, because I did not want to be a teacher. That was my mother's idea. And it just goes to show you how smart your parents are, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew was I wanted to play ball. She indicated, well, go to Cheney and play ball. I said, aha, I never thought about Cheney playing ball. Nevertheless, going there, upon graduating, Mr. D. Pasquale and Mr. Wiley came to Cheney recruiting teachers. At that time, Cheney was trying to fill teaching slots for all of his graduates, and so, yes, I went to the meeting and I sat and I listened. There were several of us. In fact, in all, there have been 18 individuals who traveled from Cheney here to Gary, Indiana, and worked. But nevertheless, there's only about 3 or 4 of us still remaining after all those years. Many have gone on to other places. But came here to, I guess, and I'm just going to go back and thank God for sending me to Pulaski, because Mr. Robert O. Greer, he was the principal there. The first thing he said to me, he said, are you involved in athletics in any way? And I told him, yes. He said, well, there's some people around here, introduce yourself to them and just ask them if you can help out. And I'm sure they would appreciate that. So from there, I started trying to become a coach. Now I met interesting individuals, Bo Mallard, and Coach Douglas, and many others. I used to go up on 21st and Broadway to cash my check, and Coach Douglas was there. He had a cap folded up in his back pocket, and his check in his pocket and everything. Come here, youngster. Come here, he would tell me. And you need me to help you do anything, here's what we'll help you to do. And so as I looked all over the city watching people coach, John Kyle was the superintendent at that time. Mickey Sofiak and Mr. Maddock were over at Frable. Harry Saborski was over at Emerson. Jack Owens was out at Wirt. And the list goes on and on. I could stay here for a long time talking about Eddie Hurd and Lou Wallace and many others. But the thing that really, really interests me, and Earl, I'm going to tell you something that you probably didn't know. Your father was instrumental in the lives of young people. And I used to watch the other coaches trying to learn how to coach. So I think possibly you can learn from good teachers, and those people that I mentioned, some of those were the ones that helped me to learn how to coach. But your dad, he was there watching over the youngsters, as well as the persons coaching them, to make sure that everything went right. And I was really, really, really impressed by that. So your father helped me to become a coach.
nevertheless, he helped you and Gerald and your brothers also become athletes also. But moving on, just wanting to help out however I could and to coach as much as I could. And presently still coaching, still involved. I had to cancel track practice today in order to be here. So still coaching, but most important thing is praising God. Because I don't know what I would have done, some of the pitfalls and some of the rough roads and things that I had to do, and all I knew was to do was something that my mother told me. She said, just be still and let God. And so, on all obstacles and all situations, you just take the back seat and turn it over. And when you do, hopefully good things will occur for you also. Thank you very much for all of you who contributed. Excuse me, I'm always forgetting something. My wife is here, Gwen. So please, would you stand up, Gwen? Thank you. And I'm glad to be among all the other honorees that have been chosen also. Thank you very much.
Okay, this gentleman here that I'm about to talk about, I think we should have kind of held off on a minute because Jeffrey and I both were going to do this, but I do get the honor and the pleasure of talking about Indiana Track and Field Hall of Fame recipient for 2000, Indiana Football Hall of Fame for 2007. And this is a wonderful, wonderful individual. I get the pleasure of working with him every day. And as I said, we're talking about Coach Earl Smith Jr. He was inducted in 2007 in Monster, Indiana. He attended high school, although we differ on this a lot of times, at Gary Roosevelt, and he graduated in 1952. A 3-year football letterman and team captain for a 4-year track and field letterman, a member of the first and second state track and field championship teams in 1951 and 1952. He won state broad jump in 1951 and 52, breaking a 20-year record of 23 feet 2.5 inches. He's a member of the state board mile relay teams from 1951 and 52. He earned All-American High School track and field honors as the 3rd best prep broad jumper in the U.S. He's a 3-year basketball letterman and team captain, and he received Roosevelt's Most Valuable Athlete Award of the Year in 1952, and I understand why. He attended the University of Iowa, and he graduated in 1956. And he also attended Indiana University in Mississippi. He attended Indiana University. Now the honors, he set an all-time U of I scoring record of 11 touchdowns in 1954. He won the Big Ten scoring championship in 1954, led by the Big Ten in punt return and kickoff return averages, and he earned all Midwest and all Big Team honors. Wow, you're almost up there with Mr. Bill Hill there for a second. Honorable mention of All-American 3-year track and field letterman, Big Ten indoor long jump championship in 1953 and 1954. The 4th in the NCAA long jump championship in 1953 and 1954. His coaching experience, he's assistant basketball coach of Gary Tolleson High School and assistant track and field coach 1960 and 1966, with the Big Team 10 winning the state championship in 1966. Assistant football coach for Gary Fravel 1966 and 1968. Head basketball coach of Fravel in 1968 and 69. Head basketball coach at Gary Emerson 1970 through 1980, with 1975 team winning the semi-state. He headed basketball coach at Gary Lou Wallace in 1980 and 1994, with 1983 and 1986 teams winning the semi-state championship and advancing to a final 8. Special recognition, 6-year member of the State Class Review Panel Athletics and Gary School Corporation Curriculum Coordinator and City Athletic Director. His wife, Roberta, very beautiful lady, and his children are Sharita and Earl III. Coach Earl Smith. Let's see a picture, Earl.
Well, I'm not gonna make this mistake. First, I'm gonna start off by introducing my wife, Roberta. Roberta Smith, would you please stand up there, please? And my daughter, Sweet, is standing in the corner there. That's my daughter. And my son currently is like the dean of students at Lew Wallace, so he's sort of tied in with some problems and so forth. I really don't know where to start. First of all, I'm really thankful for the fact that I had a chance to spend 56 years in the Gary Community School Corporation. Wow. And during that time, you meet a lot of people, you cross a lot of paths, you work with a lot of young people. And if I sort of kind of give you a little background on how I got started, it's Coach Johnson mentioned something about my dad. First of all, he was one of Frable's all-time great athletes. So he's almost had to get involved in sports. And the other thing I want to mention is I'm Earl Smith, and my sister is Earl Rogers. So if you want to know who the oldest one is, I'm the oldest by 11 months. I want to let you know that, okay? Because we have a tendency every time we go someplace, everybody asks the question, are you twins? We're not twins, but we just 11 months apart. And I thought my dad, I used to tell him all the time, he sort of made a mistake because his name was Earl Smith Senior, and I was Earl Smith Junior, and then he became with Earl's Lean. So I said, that's enough Earls, you know. Until my son came into the world, and it was really funny about that. We picked out all these crazy names like Antoine, all kind of crazy stuff, out of French names, and you name it. And so when Dr. Boom came downstairs and said, you have a son, right away, the flashlight went up. I see it's Earl Smith III, so there we go. We got another Smith. But I will kind of go back a little bit in my high school career when Gary Roosevelt won the first state championship in 1951, and we came back and won in 1952. But during that time, you know, we didn't stay in the fancy hotels. Indianapolis was opened up as we entered the city. They just let the parents in that particular neighborhood, they invited us in. So we had a chance to spend the night with families, and of course the kids were maybe a little bit more respectful today then as they are today, because they opened their homes up to us, and we spent time in their respective homes before we competed that next day as far as the sports are concerned. And I can remember a couple of things with Bo Mallet. The first time he won it, we had to win the mile relay in order to win the track meet, and Bo brought us all in together for a prayer. And we had a prayer, and we went out, and of course we won the state championship. But those are the sort of things that kind of stick with me a little bit when I look at with sports. And I want to talk a little bit about Speed Scott, the record that I broke that was downstate for 20 years. We were at the Horseman Field, and I was currently the top long jumper in the state. And Speed had come downstate also, and it had rained. And of course, during those days, the track's facilities are not what they are today. And so the runway was muddy. And so me, with my intelligent self, I said, you know what, I'm not going to run down the runway in the mud. I'm going to get off on the side and run on the grass, and then I'm going to cross over and jump. Well, at that time, I had one jump left, and I was almost in last place. And Speed Scott, who was at the state finals, he called me over to the side. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to avoid running down the middle because it's muddy. He said, is that the way you practice? I said, no. He said, then you get in the middle and come down the middle in the mud. I came down the middle in the mud, and that's when I set a new state record because of him. And what has happened is, I had a chance 10 years later to be in Indianapolis at a track meet, and I saw a young man from Evansville, Bosse, doing the same thing. And I couldn't sit there and watch him, not because I felt he was the best long jumper, but he was doing the same thing that I had done. So I called him over, and I said, look, how do you practice? He said, down the middle of the runway. I said, then get in the middle of the runway and break the record. And that's exactly what he did. He got in the middle of the runway and he broke the record. So sometimes when good things happen to you, you have to reciprocate. So no question about that. And my minister's not here, but since I've been going to Bible study, I see a lot of Bible study members here, but sort of gotten off into reading a lot of things. And I came across something really interesting because my daughter kind of giving us a book. And you talk about your own individual's DNAs, and I think everybody sitting here has their own. And sometimes you always ask yourself the question, your purpose here on earth. And basically, it's to serve and to get closer to God, because it's very important in order for you to be the recipient of some of the things that you want to do, you have to move your life and ask to think the way that he would think and ask him to help you. And I think that's been real positive for me because over these last few months, I might say, I've really kind of gotten into some deep reading and have a better and more profound understanding of what your purpose here is in life. And before I just kind of close, I'm going to thank a couple of people. Marion Williams here is a friend. I can remember when he came. I was coaching Lou Wallace, and he called me over and he asked me, "Do you think you need to be involved in something else?" I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "I think you should embark on possibly going into administration." Well, I was already certified as administrator, but I never really utilized it. And he said he thought I would be better off by doing this. Well, I still hadn't really totally made up my mind yet, but I did have a chance to interview for a position, and I got into administration, and I kind of enjoyed it. But you have to have a passion, when you're working with young people. And I think that's been the key. Ms. Griffith here, who I worked for years, Gloria Griffith her desk was adjacent to mine, and she had that same kind of passion. So you have to feel that way. Sometimes I think maybe this is the ingredient that's missing in working with young people today. You have to have a feel for really what you're doing, because when you do that, kids will gravitate to you because they believe that your intent is positive. So I can stand here and I can just go on and on and on, talk about my football career. I was very successful at the University of Iowa. We only had 6 blacks on the team. I could go on and on and on. But I'm just very appreciative of the fact to have an opportunity to be here amongst you. And I feel the same way about this WLTH. I don't want to just push it too much, but I've kind of gotten involved in it because my heart has been there, because I believe that what we need in the city is a positive voice. And I really think that we can do it. So before I leave, WLTH 1370. I have a radio program, Coach's Corner. And I expect you to tune in sometime. If you have some questions, just call in, because I like to kind of respond to them. It keeps you going. I saw Earlene Douglas come in a few minutes ago. Did which call come with you?
No, we had to.
Robert didn't come?
She
Okay.
can't make it.
All right, she would not be Mark Teleferro. I just want to ask you to have a special prayer for the Teleferro family, a great friend, and he's going through some changes right now, but with prayer, all things are possible. Thank you very much. Let me thank this lady right here too. She's constantly, we sort of communicate back and forth in what direction we want to move into. But she has a lot of perseverance in the job and what she does, and it's been a pleasure working with you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last inductee is also in the Indiana Hall of Fame. Most of us know him as Coach T, but his name is Claude Teleferro. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in June 27, 2009 in Maryville. He was born January 4th, 1931 in Gary, Indiana. He attended Gary Roosevelt and graduated in 1949. From there, he went to the University of Illinois from 1950 through 1953. During that time, he played in the 1952 Rose Bowl. And after that, he served in the United States Navy 1953 through 1957 at the Great Lakes Naval Academy, where he also played football. After leaving there, he went to Tennessee State from 1957 through 59. And then his coaching experience includes coaching Roosevelt football from 1971 through 1992 with a winning record of 99 wins and 73 losses. He also coached Roosevelt baseball 1963 through 1970. His coaching honors include 3-time Northwest Conference champion, 2-time Northwest Conference county champion, and 20 scholarship athletes that he put in Division I and 12 in Division II. He's been named the Post-Tribune Coach of the Year, and he was a member of the first Gary team to qualify for sectional play under the old IHSAA system. Some of his notable players that he coached are Derek Barnett, Darrell Benham, and Ronald Collins of Indiana University, John Story of Indiana State University, Elbert Turner, the University of Illinois, Tony Smith of Notre Dame, Michael Bullock, Ball State University, Thomas Crump, Illinois State University, Eric Mayberry, University of Pennsylvania, Eric Campbell, player and coach at the University of Michigan, and Lawrence Johnson, Cleveland Browns. His family is His family, his wife is Barbara Telefaro, and his children are Gina and Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Claude Telefaro.
He wanted to go for perfection, but he had to start with himself. And I really thought he had a great way of analyzing the game. And that's the way he approached it. And any kid that played for Coach T, and that's very evident, they have nothing but a tremendous amount of respect for Coach T. So on behalf of the Telefaro family, I'm going to let Miss Earlene Douglas here. She's going to make a couple comments. Come on, Earlene.
Wasn't prepared. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wasn't told to say, I was to say I talk too much, so just thank you on behalf of the Telefaro family. Okay. And you know, keep Claude in your prayers, all the Telefaros, okay? He's doing well, but he's got some way to go, okay?
Before this is over, we've got Mr. Hill. He wanted to come up and say some words, and we kind of overlooked him. He didn't know the protocol at the time.
Thank you very much, and thank all of you for being patient. But, you know, it was announced that I am a recovered alcoholic. And you know how we alcoholics are. We're not going to take all of this stuff, because the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And by the grace of God and my true friends, even my enemies whom I pray for, and the bracelets on my knees, I stand before you humble and grateful. The reason I mention my knees is that years ago, when most of you knew me, I was 5'8", 5'8". I went to the doctor the other day and put me on that place and told me to measure my height. At age 88, I am now 5'4". It ain't funny to me. I arrived in Gary in 1936, and I heard Miss Elgin say that she lived at 21st in Jefferson, and my address was 2156. And my first playmate was Robert Red. I found out talking to Miss Elgin that I think that Robert Red was a cousin. Is that right? All right, so it's a small world, isn't it? You know, I said my true friends. Alcohol has been a friend of mine ever since he came to Gary. We went through a lot together. I was in the band also under the tutelage of Mr. Bennett. But they had a young man named Tatum, Richard Tatum, that played tenor saxophone. I had learned to play saxophone under Thomas Hugh Crump, the father of Thomas Crump Jr., who used to be a businessman here in Gary. But after hearing Richard play, I decided that I was going to play that horn. So what I became with that band was a vocalist. So standing before you is not famous vocalist, but I can sing.
Well, come on with it.
No, I'm not going to do that. Because this young man, Mr. Green, sung my nephew's favorite song that he always sings, and the house just go crazy. And his name is Thomas Elmore. That is my baby sister's child, now you know that. So it kind of runs in the family. I have another person in here that knew me when I was very, very young. And that was years ago, and her name is Ruth Gordon Hoare. Married to alcohol. Small world, isn't it? And Earl Smith is graduated of the same school that I graduated from at Roosevelt, and I'm not going to, yes I will, I'll tell you the year. After I graduated in 1947. But Earl and I also graduated from another place, the Laney Project. And I used to watch him as he developed. I knew his father also. Of course, I was one of the oldest families that moved into Delaney in 1940. I have from 1938 to 40, I was at Frable School, so you Frableites. I'm not saying those are the best.
Please, no.
And Carolyn Jordan is here, whose father also gave me lessons on saxophone, a Frableite, so I had to put that in. But God bless all of you for taking the time to come and hear some things about me. And I noticed that this says Hall of Fame. And I'm very humbled by being with these wonderful recipients that's going to be on the Hall of Fame wall. And I was glad to see William Hill on the Hall of Fame instead of the Hall of Infamy. Thank you.
Well, this has been a great evening. And I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate the awardees and the comments. And to me, it is an honor just having them here. But the fact hearing their stories and being able to put them on the Hall of Fame wall. Now their piece will be right over here on this Hall of Fame wall. And the athletes will be in the back along coming down the stairwell across the steps. We can come in and find them and see them. And we have more space, so we will add to this Hall of Fame because we have more talent in this community and we will celebrate more. I heard Coach say that his pastor, and his pastor not here, that was not here, but his pastor is here. And his pastor is my pastor, Pastor Alfred Johnson from St. Community Church, and a lot of us, he's a lot of our pastor, and we all love him, and I love him dearly. More than most. I don't know that. I can't say it. I don't know how somebody else loves him, but I love him dearly. But what I want to do is just say that this is a start of something a little bit different because we all have grown and to know each other just a little bit more and come a little bit closer. There's a couple of people here that came in the room later, other than our pastor that I mentioned, Senator Earlene Rogers. I want her to just stand. She's here. After Earlene, Senator Earlene Rogers comes before us. Let's give her utmost compliment. We're going to ask our pastor, Pastor Alfred Johnson, come just give us a brief closing prayer.
Didn't want to miss this opportunity to again have the opportunity to be cast in my brother's shadow. You know that song, "It must have been cold in your shadow." Well, he makes the Hall of Fame before I do, which is what he's always done is preceded me, you know. And look how he look good. I mean, I tell you, my brother's sharp. And has always been sharp and has always been one to set the style, you know. And so I just appreciate being in his shadow. And I want to say a word about Bill Hill. He talked about knowing Earl, and we did grow up in Delaney, 2232 Harrison Street, Sydney. You were a few blocks behind us. Some of the other people that were there too. But anyway, while Bill was looking at Earl, I was looking at Bill because he was fine. Oh, he is still fine. I just want everybody to know that he talks about it may have been infamy for him, but he was always, you know, somebody that we used to sit out on the coal bin at that time. You remember the coal bins, don't you, Bill? Oh, yeah. And watch Bill Hill go by. Okay, Mr. Green and Park Hall, absolutely people that have been in my life. And of course, Mary Elgin and I were long time buddies and friends, and I continue to be a supporter of hers and whatever she chooses to do. And I think this Hall of Fame idea is great. Because we do need to have accolades and show appreciation for those people who have done something to make us proud of them. And absolutely these people have. So thank you, Mary, for giving me a chance to say a few words. Thank you. Hey, Gene, I didn't see you either. Okay. He was always at West Side, though, so I mean, you know, I'm a Bell graduate, so there was always a little bone of contention there. But congratulations to you too, Jane. Okay.
Let us pray. Lord our God, come this evening, first of all, praising you for your being the God that you are. And then as we assemble ourselves, Lord, we give you thanks. We thank you for these who are honored here this evening, for the gifts that you've given them, the gifts they've shared with the community. for the inspiration that they have been for so many people. We thank you for the lives that they have lived, Lord. I pray that you would continue to bless them. And we ask a special blessing upon Coach Terrell, all of that family. We just ask that you would strengthen, that you would comfort, and have your way and give us what we need to accept your will and your way. Now, Lord, there have been so many who have gone on before us, who have done great things in this city. We give thanks for those lives and pray that as we assemble ourselves, that you would inspire us to do more, be more of who you'd have us to be, that you might get the praise and the glory in the lives that we live. We thank you, O Lord, for the trustee, for the township office, for all that they do for our people. Continue to bless them and use them, we pray. Above all, Lord, we give you thanks for Jesus who came and died for us. Thank you for salvation, life everlasting into him. Bless the food that has been prepared. Let it give nourishment and strength to our bodies, that we can live the lives that you have given us, that you would get the praise and all the glory. Asking these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Amen.
Ordinarily, you would never see me in another woman's face, but sometimes my job takes me there. I'm just working. Don't let what I do come between me and you. I'm just working. Girl, you know for real that I care. I know it's kinda funny, I blame it on my money, but that's just the way it is. To you it didn't look right, but to me it really felt like a situation. But I swear, it wasn't nothing more than a conversation. Yeah, that's all, it didn't mean nothing. Yeah. We were just sitting here talking, girl. You and I, we have it way too good. We've been together way too long. Forget about what it may have looked like. Baby, what would I look like if I hurt you? Remember, I never missed the right girl. I would never do you wrong. Girl, I know time will come. It's inevitable. We will disagree. Just like after the winter comes spring, and then summer breeze. But there wouldn't be 4 seasons without fall, and we wouldn't be in love if all our time was spent being sweet. Yeah, well, the thought of you leaving me would have anybody shaking like the leaf on a tree. Wanna take it easy on a Monday, just like a Sunday morning, yeah. You have a question, let me answer it. I would never look, cause it can never be better than this